Welcome to Intuitive Transformations with your host, Sylvia Henderson, and discover tools, wisdom, and inspiration that will empower you to transform your life. Sylvia is an intuitive life coach and energy healer with a growing practice that is focused on empowering others to be more of who they want to be. For the next hour, join Sylvia and explore and unravel anything in the way of you creating the life that you would love to live on the OMTimes Radio Network.
You can find me here live every Sunday evening at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 9 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on the OMTimes Radio FM network, the voice of consciousness. If you'd like to know more about me and what I do, please visit my website at intuitivetransformations.net. That's intuitivetransformations.net. And while you are there, be sure to sign up for my newsletter, like me on Facebook, and follow me on Twitter. Now, before I bring on my guest for today's show, I want to say something about last week's show. Last week I had Carolyn Mays on my show to talk about the challenges facing a spiritually conscious person in today's world. Now, Carolyn Mays is an amazing spiritual luminary, and she's a pioneer in engineering and energy healing, and she is considered to be a modern-day mystic. And I have to say that this was probably one of the most interesting and one of the most intense interviews that I think I've ever done. And with that said, the Intuitive Transformations radio show was created to focus on inspiring people to improve their lives from the inside out. And what I mean by that is that as we heal ourselves, we have a greater capacity to then heal the world. However, I do feel that last week's show fell short of my ultimate goal, which was to leave you feeling hopeful and empowered to create positive changes within your personal lives and within the world as a whole. However, I am very, very grateful, incredibly grateful that Carolyn Mays appeared as a guest on my show because there were so many rich nuggets of wisdom that she brought forward that are really important for us all to consider if we want our planet and the human race to truly heal and move forward and to thrive together as a global community. Now, if you happen to miss last week's interview and you would like to listen to that show, then please go to podcast.omtimes.com. Again, that's podcast.omtimes.com, and just click on the Intuitive Transformations link on the right-hand side of the website page, and you'll find the show with Carolyn Mays as well as all of my other previous shows. And then if you go there tomorrow, you'll also find this show as well. And you can also read an abbreviated version of my interview with Carolyn Mays by going to the OMTimes.com website. As Carolyn Mays is this week's OMTimes magazine cover story, and they used the transcripts from the show to create that story. So, moving forward, to say that we are living in interesting times is an understatement. As a growing global community, in order to thrive, we must begin to remember that we really do need each other, regardless of race, creed, color, religion, sexual preference, or political preference. We are each individualizations of the one creative source of all that is. Just as a wave is an individualization or an individual expression of the ocean, so are we individual expressions of the one source creator. And when mankind chooses to have open-hearted, unconditional love, forgiveness, and acceptance of ourselves and of each other, that is when our world will change and heal in significant and dramatic ways. So how do we get there? How does mankind as a whole move out of the judgment, the fear, and the anger, and the rage and hatred into open-hearted forgiveness, love, and acceptance. Today, I have a guest on the show who offers a unique approach to experiencing an open heart, experiencing more harmonious luck, and creating more abundance. Joining me today is Dr. Joseph Gallenberger. He's a clinical psychologist with 30 years of experience as a therapist. In 1992, he began to investigate psychokinesis, also known as PK, which is the ability to influence matter, meaning to bend metal or grow seeds in your hand, just using the energy of directed consciousness. This unique energy is useful in healing and manifestation. Dr. Gallenberger scientifically confirmed PK in university laboratories and has taught PK in over 100 workshops, such as his Inner Vagus Adventure, where students achieve dramatic healing, strong influence over dice and slot machines, thus the name Inner Vagus, and many marvelous manifestations at home. Dr. Gallenberger is a senior trainer at the Monroe Institute, created its popular MC2 program to teach PK, energy healing, and manifestation. He developed SyncCreation, a complete home study course in manifestation. Using the casino as a classroom, his book, Inner Vegas, Creating Miracles, Abundance, and Health, reveals how mind energized by the heart influences our reality. His meditation exercises are available on CD and his downloads, and they include the Healing Heart, the Abundant Heart, Liquid Luck, Abundance Waterfall, Partners Meditation, and Manifesting with Hemi-Sync. With the Liquid Luck exercises, people immediately reported receiving money from unexpected sources, winning lottos and raffles, selling houses within an hour, having businesses suddenly take off, solving intractable problems, and receiving brilliant ideas for inventions. His newest book, Liquid Luck, The Good Fortune Handbook, shares many of these extraordinary stories. He covers how happiness, gratitude, compassion, praise, love, and feeling fortunate are essential to powerful abundance creation. Dr. Gallenberger shows us that we can indeed be miracle workers in our own lives. His Heart Series meditations have just been released, and already stories of significant healing and wonderful manifestations are flooding in. A dynamic, heart-driven speaker, Dr. Joe Gallenberger is in demand internationally as a workshop presenter. He has been a guest on more than 60 radio shows, including Coast to Coast Radio, and an upcoming appearance on New Thinking Aloud. Dr. Joseph Gallenberger, welcome to today's show.
Good evening, Sylvia. How are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic, and how are you?
Doing well, getting in the Christmas spirit here. It's gotten cold in the Carolina mountains.
Well, yeah, it's about that time. We're only 5 days away, aren't we?
That's right.
And just 11 days before the end of the year, and tomorrow's winter solstice for some people, depending on where you are in the world. It'll either be tomorrow or Tuesday, and we're going to start getting into our longer days. I'm excited. Living here in the Pacific Northwest, it gets dark at 3:30, so I'm looking forward to dusk not heading my way until closer to 9 p.m. So what does it mean to be open-hearted?
Very good question. For most people, it could equate to the feeling you might have if you saw puppies being born or holding a newborn baby, soldiers returning home for war, being reunited with their families, those kinds of feelings where you feel a type of universal love, might even cry a little bit as your heart is open. And then the trick is, of course, for many of us, that might last for 10, 15 minutes, and then we move back into a feeling where our heart is kind of closed off again.
So, and you're right, because those are beautiful moments that in those moments, there's like this warmth that just kind of exudes from your heart space, but it is short-lived. And why do you believe it's so important that we try to elongate that experience?
A couple decades now of working with manifestation, particularly in the very fast feedback form of psychokinesis that you mentioned, where we're looking at manifesting a jackpot on a slot machine or certain numbers and thrown on the dice, or growing seeds in a few minutes in your hands, getting root growth maybe 1.5 inches long, those kinds of things where the feedback is very quick. It became clear quite early in this exploration that the highest, finest energy that you could use to do this would be an open heart. And unfortunately, one of the things that closes the heart is fear. And there is a lot of that going around right now in the culture. And I think it's going to be important to stay very open-hearted to manifest positive outcome for the kinds of challenges we're facing now, both individually, economically, socially, and also culturally as a worldwide culture. I think we will have a very big challenge if we approach this from a place of fear and individual isolation. We need to move into the open-hearted, all as one state to manifest positively at this time.
You know, I absolutely agree with you. Because unfortunately, we're kind of rolling in that direction right now, especially if you're in the United States and you're looking at things that are going on in the political and social media arena, conversations about what's going on with Syria and whatnot. So we're about to go into a break. Please stay tuned, everyone. When we return, we'll continue this conversation with Dr. Joseph Gallenberger. We'll be back in just a few moments. Stay tuned, please.
Bringing you the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio, your conscious lifestyle on steroids. Being a radio host on IOM-FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
This is Terry Van Horn, and I want to invite you to join me for my weekly radio show, Hailing Light, on OMTimes Radio every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On Hailing Light, we want to bring love, light, and blessings into your world. You can find out more about us at www.healinglightonline.com. Blessings.
Join Elliot Jollish, the business therapist, each Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern for the Elliot Jollish Hour, as he interviews business experts on your behalf. And you're invited to email your business questions to questions@ecjgroup.com for answers, live, on air every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on the Elliot Jollish Hour. Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business. The best of holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
Listening to Sylvia Henderson on the Intuitive Transformations show, and I have with me a very special guest. His name is Dr. Joseph Gallenberger, and he is a 30-year well-experienced psychologist who has done years of study in the field of psychokinesis and consciousness. And we're having this great conversation about what it means to be open-hearted. And before we went to the break, he was saying it's that moment when you see a brand new baby, when that brings you glee at looking at little puppies, or when a soldier comes home from war, and that's that feeling of open-heartedness. And that fear is the thing that challenges that open-heartedness. Is that correct, Dr. Gallenberger?
Yes, Sylvia, I think you described it very well. I don't think love has an opposite, but fear can cloud love. And a saying I have on my wall is, fear is expensive, love is priceless, choose wisely. And so as we talk about open-heartedness, we're really meaning living in a state of higher energy and higher love as our kind of our habitual way of going through the day.
I love that. And, even though your most recent meditations are very clearly titled about around the heart, like the abundant heart and heart healing, all of your work is very heart-based. Is that correct?
Yes, as we talked before the break, I came at this as a scientist and labs at university to really see whether or not human energy could affect matter, physical matter reality in measurable ways. And really the meta-analysis of those studies shows results that almost 1 trillion to 1 by chance. So it's, for me, a proven scientific effect that our consciousness does affect matter. And then from there, very quickly, it was clear that to get the highest states of consciousness going with the most power and the most positive for psychological and spiritual growth, the energy of the open heart was the way to go.
Now, was any of your research, because I know that HeartMath has done quite a bit of research on the heart and heart cohesiveness, did you pull any of your study from that as well, or?
Yes, I began before they did, but there's been a convergence. In the psychokinesis literature, they had something called the Global Consciousness Project. They put random number generators around the world, and they would jump when 1 billion humans would think of the same thing. Obama's acceptance speech or 9/11, different kinds of events that absorbed human consciousness. Pretty quickly, as we were looking at that, then HeartMath was also saying, well, the mind is powerful, but we measure even stronger fields around the heart. And we feel the heart has its intelligence of its own. And they've developed some very nice biofeedback methods to increase heart coherence and have simple exercises. Even just putting your hand over your heart physically usually will bring you out of your head and into awareness that you have heart energy. So many of the people in the first project I mentioned, Global Consciousness, collaborated, and now there's a Global Coherence Project, which HeartMath is very involved in, where when people around the world move into coherent heart energy through meditation, it affects the magnetic fields of the world, of the earth and their location, and they're able to measure that on machines. So that's just getting going, and they're getting some good results on that as well.
That is fascinating. I want you to go back to something that you mentioned about when this equipment was able to determine when a certain number of individuals on the planet held the same thought, that the statistics would jump. Is that what you were saying?
Yes, maybe not the same thought, but focusing often with an emotional component on the same event with their hearts. The first thing we thought they were thinking, but I think they were also moving into a heart space. So it'd be things like the large tidal wave in Japan, as I mentioned, 9/11, the random number generators around the earth jumped about 15 minutes before the planes hit the towers, as if we all knew some horrific event was going to happen and that our hearts were going out to those who would be involved.
I am awestruck because when you think about how now we are in a very real way, we are already a global community because we're so connected with our smartphones and our internet and our social media and TV, and information is now delivered seamlessly almost as the experiences are unfolding, and yet we're galvanized by this. So conversely, when we are coming from, this space of shock and awe and terror, actually, what does that do to the planet?
Yes, my theory is it really can't be good. Um, the only good it can bring, I think, is to clarify black from white, if you will.
The
Um,
contrast.
yes, that people really see this. Most people know the old story of putting a frog in water and gradually heating the water. It's called psychic numbing, that the frog would not notice the difference in temperature and wouldn't jump out of the water. But when things are this dramatic, they are attention getting and they can initiate calls to action. Um, and so now you see, there's services taking place in many cities where Catholics, Jews, and Muslims are all in the same church at the same time, reaffirming their brotherhood. It brings people into a mode where they can't just stay asleep, if you will, and need to begin to see if they want to contribute on the positive side to this. Of course, people can have different ideas of what the positive might be, but I think we're seeing some nice movements away from the initial fear and hopefully to things that are going to be more constructive.
I too feel that way as well. And I think that right now, your meditation, your CDs and MP3s are so vitally necessary because it can be very difficult for people when they don't have really good tools they can use to help get them out of that fight and flight and even that freeze state, because their central nervous system gets a little fried, and what you do with your work helps to bring them back into their heart.
Yes, Sylvia, we are using the latest of technologies. Some people may know one called binaural beat. The most famous of that is Monroe Institute's Hemi-Sync is the brand name for that. We're using that, different kinds of sound modulation techniques to generate particular gamma wave frequencies that are associated with healing, and then very gentle guidance, beautiful heart music, all combined so that in 10 minutes the person can relax, and by 20 minutes to 30 minutes into the exercise, they do experience these open-hearted states and their fear goes down. And they work very effectively. My brother, 20 years ago, more than that now, I guess, committed suicide. And I got the phone call from the police, and then I had to call my parents and tell them about it. And that was a very difficult call to make. Right after the call to my parents, I laid down and put on one of these Hemi-Sync meditation exercises and immediately was able to calm down and feel some angelic consolation, if you will, that lasted through the plane trips back home and things. So even under very high stress and with not much experience as a meditator, people can use these CDs like Abundant Heart and Healing Heart to move into calmness, move into an open-hearted state, and then look at things from that point of view, see what solutions make sense to what they're dealing with.
So just to clarify, with the technology that you described, the sound modulation, going into the gamma brainwave state, and then the binaural beats, is it more about calming down the brainwave states, or is it more about connecting more with your heart?
Well, like a car, you don't want to go to fourth gear right away. You go through first, second, and third, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the first thing that the Hemi-Sync does, or binaural beats do, is move you into greater right and left brain coherence, more communication between your left and right hemisphere. Well, the ego tends to live in the left hemisphere in linear, future and past-oriented kind of space. The right brain is more here now, universal consciousness type of a space. So moving out of left brain and more into whole brain and letting the right brain be there as well is kind of like first gear. Then from there, a person can begin to activate their heart energy because they're no longer tense, they're no longer fully left brain ego state. And once the heart energy is activated, then it can be applied to manifest what you'd like in your life or to heal things, that type of thing. So the binaural beat, that comes in really handy to soften the dictatorship of the ego, if you will. And then from there, it's easier to move into these open heart states that we're mentioning. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And so is this really what sets your work apart from Hemi-Sync, the fact that you're pulling in beyond the binaural beats, other technology?
Yes, well, Monroe Institute that I mentioned is also working on other technologies. I developed, as you mentioned, MC² program for them, and we do heart opening work there. They even have a program called Heartline, so I'm not exclusive in that in any way. But this unique combination of heart music and things that I put together with my own scripting, I think, is working very well. And most of their programs are a week-long residential program, and these are designed more to kind of access within a half-hour meditation time.
And you have seen some really phenomenal outcomes from people who have submitted testimonies when they've just used one of your meditations once. Isn't that correct?
Yes, definitely so.
Quite a big difference from having to do a week-long program.
I wouldn't say having to. It's wonderful to be up to Monroe. I teach there. I've taught there 25 years.
I know, it's a beautiful institution. It is a beautiful, I've heard many wonderful things about the Monroe Institute. It definitely is cutting edge. We're going to go into another break, everyone. Please stay tuned. When we return, we're going to continue this conversation with Dr. Gallenberger. And hopefully you can learn more about how you can use the technology that he's provided in his programs to help you get more into your heart space.
The future of Internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of the Inspired Parenting radio show, where every week we bring you empowering information from the diverse fields of conscious parenting, education, neuroscience, consciousness, health, and metaphysics to support you in nurturing the best in your children. So if you're interested in understanding what shapes your children's minds, spirits, and hearts, join me every Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and prepare to be inspired.
The name is Bond. James Bond.
No, the name is Joe. The Joe Show. And we are returning back for our 9th season here on OMTimes Radio. So tune in every Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, on OMTimes.com/mobile. You can take us wherever you go. Yeah!
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. Bringing a more conscious lifestyle to your world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Is Dr. Joseph Gallenberger. And before we went to the break, Dr. Gallenberger was talking about how his meditation exercises on his CDs and MP3s, you can actually experience results after just listening to it one time. Of course, listening to it more often, you're going to gain more results. And then as well, before we went to the break, I just want to clarify that the Monroe Institute is an amazing institution that provides amazing opportunities for people if they have the time and the financial wherewithal to go there for a week and have a full immersion experience. But what's great about Dr. Gallenberger's CD meditations is that they're affordable, so everyone can have access to them. And I really do appreciate that part of it, Dr. Gallenberger.
Sure. I think hopefully some people have used Liquid Luck or whatever to get the wherewithal to go into deeper kinds of things, my home study or going up to Monroe. But it's fair for people to expect and want to see results quickly, to get confirmation that this is real, that they can do it. It's not something that you have to be specially talented about or what have you. And so they were designed very much to distill 30 years of experience into something that in a half hour, hopefully, person can go, hey, this really works.
That's great. I love that because it's accessible for just about anyone and it's affordable. Now, can people from other countries also order your meditations?
Sure, we do business around the world quite often. Sometimes the digital downloads, which are on my website, can be the fastest, easiest way, but we mail courses all over the world. Somebody from South Africa wrote me last week talking about how everybody had always thought he was kind of a crabby, hostile, negative person. Since he's been using this, they're all commenting on how nice a guy he's become.
And which one did he use?
He used Abundance Waterfall, I think, on that.
Wow, beautiful.
And so all of them, no matter what the title, are designed to work by opening the heart, as we mentioned, and so it's wonderful, to get comments from different places in the world, which sometimes don't have the same access to group leaders and things that we do in the United States.
So can you talk a little bit about each one of the different unique meditation exercises that you provide? Maybe starting with the first one that you did, which was Liquid Luck. Is that correct?
Actually, manifesting with Hemi-Sync would be the first. And it's designed for people who've had zero experience in any kind of relaxing or meditating. So it goes through a very structured body relaxation and uses these signals we've mentioned, in this case, Hemi-Sync, to get deep relaxation going and then giving you a free flow period to manifest what you would like in your life, guided on how to do that. So that was number one. And quite quickly, I learned that most people get their energy from or get their energy messed with by other people. And so partners meditation came along to take everybody in your life, your parents, even if they are deceased or alive, partners, business partners, siblings, teenage daughters, what have you, see them in their highest and finest during meditation one at a time and bring that relationship to its highest, cleanest energy. And so when people go through their significant loved ones, they feel a real elevation there. Then after that, came Liquid Luck, and that was I've done 77 Inner Vegas adventure workshops, wanting to distill that again into something quick for folks. And Liquid Luck came out, and before it was even out a week, I had probably 100 stories of success with, as you mentioned, selling houses in an hour, winning lottos, finding soulmates, getting new businesses going, things like that. So quickly after that, I wrote a book expanding on the concepts there. There, it's a meditation where you're filling a container in your mind with the highest of happiness, praise, gratitude, love, compassion, which gets you out of ego, and then finally feelings of good fortune. And then whenever you want to have a lucky day, you just imagine the vial or the container and take a drink. So the book expands on why all those things are important that I mentioned, such as happiness, gives you more exercises how to do that. And Abundance Waterfall followed that, showing you a nice walk through the woods and then seeing a waterfall to symbolize all the abundance already in your life, and then being able to change, like if you wanted more health, to see that part of the waterfall as green, for example, and see that increasing. If you wanted more spiritual growth, whatever you might want. So that one came out again with some really nice results coming from it. And that's coming off the principle, that if you want to manifest positive things, you don't want to feel any lack. You want to see your life as a big sundae with the new thing you want as the cherry on top of the sundae, if you will. Mm-hmm. So it gets you into a feeling of great abundance. And then most recently, as you mentioned, started a heart series, the first one called The Healing Heart, and using all these new technologies and special music to move you into wide open heart space and then have time for deep healing of yourself and then another. And we're using that word healing, meaning healing into your full potential as a human, not just healing a sore knee, because there's nothing wrong with doing that. Abundant heart, very similar, but after the heart is open, the first thing you're guided to is to ask your heart what its deepest wisdom is. What would make your heart sing? What really would really light your life up in terms of your heart having passion for it? And people are surprised of what their heart says to them. They may want to alleviate suffering in the world, or who knows. And then once those things are identified in the meditation, there's time to then begin to bring one into reality. So that's quick and dirty all the way through them. And my book, Inner Vegas, Creating Miracles, Abundance, and Health, talks about the science lab psychokinesis I mentioned, the Vegas Adventures, and the home study course, SyncCreation. So that's what I got going so far.
I think you've covered a lot of bases here. Yes. With what you've created. I really am drawn very much to the partner meditation. I love that. It sounds like it's the vehicle for ultimate forgiveness.
It's very good for forgiveness, which is really liberating when people are able to do that.
Absolutely. It frees up so much of your energy and your resources and allows you to move forward in life untethered, because really when you're holding unforgiveness towards someone or holding resentment about something that's happened in the past, you've not imprisoned your, who you presume to be the perpetrator. You're actually imprisoning yourself. So that, I love the idea behind that one. All of them, actually. It's just, it's a wonderful concept. It really is.
I know we went through a lot. There's very good and clear descriptions on my website, synchronicity.com, which we'll talk about later. And also quite a few free articles there with tips on how to do psychokinesis, how to do healing for yourself or others, how to manifest. So the website's a good resource to look in more detail about these reports of other people's use of them and what might fit a person. But they can kind of start anywhere they're intuitively called and I think expect to have a good positive experience.
That's fantastic. And can you talk a little bit more about psychokinesis? Because from what I read of it, it's like, okay, the spoon bending thing, or being able to manipulate physical form with just your consciousness and your thoughts. And I know actually, because I've taken a workshop with a gentleman who I think he worked for the government for some time, and he told me that there was a lot of research done in our military about remote viewing and psychokinesis. And why is psychokinesis so important to being able to manifest?
Well, mainly how I use it is a very quick feedback tool that you're doing things right. In this idea of raising a very high energy through meditation and opening your heart, learning how to focus that very clearly, and then probably just as important, how to let go and let God, if you will, let go and allow. And that's an art to learn that. And in regular life, you could be thinking positively for weeks and your soulmate still might not show up yet. Because of all the timing involved, or you could be thinking negatively for weeks before you began to feel poorly in the body. The psychokinesis things, say we're in Vegas, we go to the tables by ourselves, reserved just for us. And if you're in a grounded state, which is important, connected with spirit, feeling one with all, you usually get rewarded with money within seconds. If you go into greed, fear, ego, you get punished by withdrawal of the money. So it's a feedback conditioning to a more enlightened way of living. That's where psychokinesis can come in really handy, is people go, oh, this is what you mean. This is the rhythm that they may have been trying for years to learn without any real good, clear sense whether it's working or not. So it's great because we can often tell the person scientifically what the odds are of what they did. So if I get a particular slot machine hit on the first pull, I know that's 160,000 to 1 by chance, or the spoon will never bend the way it would bend on its own. So people get confidence. So a lot of energy healers, people interested in energy, get attracted to psychokinesis as a skill-building way, training exercise.
Now, the way you've described it, I can see why you would do this Inner Vegas workshop, because of the instant evidence of results. I want to talk about this a little bit more when we return from the break. We'll be back in just a few moments with Dr. Joseph Gallenberger. Stay tuned.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes. Being a radio host on IOM-FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
Do you want to be a better communicator? Do you want to better connect with the important people in your life? Do you want to enrich your relationships? If so, join me, Matthew Cooper, on the Positive Control System Show every Wednesday evening at 11 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on OMTimes Radio. I'll meet you there.
Hello, I'm Miriam Knight of New Consciousness Review, inviting you to my new show where I interview the rising stars of the conscious awakening. We'll explore the many faces of consciousness in action and intriguing perspectives on life, the universe, and everything in between. Join us each Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern on the Rising Stars Show.
Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake. The cutting edge of conscious radio. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
Welcome back. This is Sylvia Henderson here with Dr. Joseph Gallenberger. And Dr. Gallenberger, before we continue, because I want to talk, I do want you to talk about Inner Vegas Adventure and also your home study course in manifestation. But before we do, can you please tell people how they can get your CDs, get your books, get your MP3s, and how to get in contact with you to attend one of your courses?
Sure, Sylvia, it'd be my pleasure. My main website is called Sync, as in synchronicity, SYNC, and then the word creation, CREATION. So that's SYNCCREATION.com. And if any of these titles have stuck in their mind, such as Healing Heart, you can go to healingheartcd.com, Abundant Heart, abundantheartcd.com, Liquid Luck, liquidluckbook.com. So basically, if you Google any of that stuff or my name, GALLENBERGER, this stuff will come up.
Beautiful, beautiful. So can you talk a little bit more about your Las Vegas adventure? Because I have to be quite honest, when I first saw your book, Inner Vegas, I thought, well, what is this about? Just going to Vegas and getting lucky? But I see now, I understand now from how you've explained it, how this is so much more than that.
Yeah, once I went to the university labs and saw that psychokinesis was real, I wanted to get kind of a black belt in PK, if you will. And I needed to look around for a place where that could be possible to learn. And the nice thing about Vegas is we know what the odds are. The state has very heavy regulation to keep things honest. So I could go out there. If I could be successful, I could pay my office staff back home and I could learn how to do things. And when I went out by myself, I found very deep meditative states were possible. And it seemed very positive for manifesting. So I began bringing groups. This is almost 15 years ago now. And I've brought us 77 groups out so far. And we've had things like people waking up the second day of the workshop, pain-free from post-polio syndrome for the first time in 20 years. Lots of different healing kind of things. Manifestation, artist who's been struggling gets a contract to do 4 brown sculptures at a university and their career takes off. And the neat thing is in Vegas too, we meditate together, we form an unconditionally loving space. And in there, people can work on and clear issues around guilt, risk, deservingness, performance. Most of us have a few hang-ups about money, if you will. And so to move into our full power, these things can be addressed there and a lot of healing can occur. So we have a lot of fun and sometimes win back our tuition, which is always good too.
That would be a nice perk. So sure. This unconditional loving space and this meditative state where you're creating this unconditional loving space, this open-heartedness. This is not being done with listening to binaural beats. This is being done through, is it shifting of energy? Is it teaching techniques? I mean, how are people achieving this in your Inner
Sure.
Las Vegas adventures?
Well, again, we do meditate often using Hemi-Sync or binaural beat technology or my CDs. But we do that mostly the first day, and we're kind of getting to know each other and beginning other activities, exercises designed to open the heart. And then we move into, because the Hemi-Sync stuff tends to be so relaxing, by the second day, we're also adding music that most people would find is very heart-opening. That could be the song The Rose, songs that people are familiar with, some beautiful classical music, different things. And then we go down as a team to the table that has been reserved just for us, and we begin to practice opening our heart there while we're doing our psychokinesis. We then come up and talk about it, fine-tune it, but it's very much everybody is supporting everybody else. very strongly, because if one wins, we all win, if you will. So it's uh, highly incentivized to pay careful attention. We bet very small amounts of money usually, but even a dollar on the table, people will pay attention knowing other people are counting on you to make that dollar into more money versus lose it. And the whole experience is designed to basically be heart opening, and we do use some meditation to do that.
So can you also talk a little bit about your other program, which is your home study course in manifestation that's
Sure.
called SyncCreation?
Yes. So as we mentioned, I developed the program from Monroe Institute called Manifestation and Creation Squared, or MC Squared. It's been going on for at least 12 years, very popular. But as you mentioned, sometimes it can be difficult to take a week or two off to meditate, and it is a graduate program, so you need to take Gateway at Monroe first. So we looked at a smaller step on the ladder, and one that could also be a lifelong support and give more individual attention. So the home study SyncCreation has much of the content of that MC Squared program, with spoon bending, light bulb lighting, growing seeds in your hand. Also the stuff about healing and manifesting, has its own custom Hemi-Sync exercises with it, and comes with 3 sessions of personal coaching, which can be invaluable. Most of us have some blocks. It might be, things we've learned, like nothing good can come easy, no pain, no gain. It could be, I don't deserve it. It could be, I've been punished for being psychic or powerful before. And the individual sessions help clear that, so a person can really move into their unlimited potential. So we've had that out for probably almost 10 years and had very high reports of success. On my website, on the SyncCreation Home Study page, is a tab that says New Results about halfway down the page. It's a survey of 60 people who took the course and seeing what kinds of magic they created with it in relationships and business and in health and things like that. So if a person's interested in looking further on it, the SyncCreation page will give you a lot more information than I could do here.
So why do you think it is so difficult? And I know that fear is a contributing factor to closing the heart. Mm-hmm. But then there are people who manifest things in their lives, and you would look at them and you would look at their lives and you go, they don't seem like they're an open-hearted person to me. Of course, that's from the outside looking in. They
may not be. It's very powerful to just feel like you're a deserving person. But if you look carefully, often in those situations, the person may have made tremendous amount of money, but their health or their relationships are not in balance with that.
Something else suffers as a result.
Yeah, but if you look at somebody who is really fortunate across the board in all the important parts of life, usually that person will just have naturally an open heart, be a naturally very grateful person, or has learned the technology and how to do that, in my experience.
So does this, when you talk about some of the people that have had physical things resolved and how other people, their life has changed significantly, does this help individuals who have had maybe traumatic childhoods or maybe experienced other traumas in their life?
Sure. The individual CDs like Liquid Luck and Healing Heart are designed to kind of slip under the barriers of fear that might be there, and at least for a half hour move the person into a state of more unlimited potential. If a person is very drug addicted or clinically depressed, they may need some counseling, would be recommended. But if they're in pretty good shape but still being dragged down by past trauma, then the home study course, because it goes into such detail on how to get rid of feelings of fear, lack, guilt in a deep meditative state, that has worked wonders for a lot of people who have wanted to move further away from the trauma that may have defined them when they were younger.
And what about people who they say, I can't meditate, I can't quiet my mind down? I've had several clients tell me, I would love to meditate, but my thoughts, I just cannot turn them off. How does this help?
Well, I can sympathize with them. I have probably a pretty good dose of ADD myself, attention deficit. For I'd say at least 95% of people listening to the Hemi-Sync type of stuff, they seem to be able to quickly move into relaxing and focusing their mind, even if other systems haven't worked well for them. So if they've been trying to sit down quietly and empty their mind, say, and been very frustrated, they may be delighted to find that this actually can work for them better than when they've tried it without this kind of an aid.
Great. And then, in terms of what is the youngest, people using it that are younger, what is the youngest age of someone who could use this?
Oh, I had my daughter using Hemi-Sync when she was 3 years old.
Wow.
And she'd say, Daddy, I can't go to sleep, and put that on, and she'd go to sleep. The next night, Daddy, I can't go to sleep. Here's your CD. I don't want to listen to that. It made me go to sleep. So the real problem was that. But kids, very good at 16, 17 years old to have ability to transcend pressure, to focus consciousness. I think it's a great antidote to the potential later for using drugs and things.
I love how it balances the left and the right hemisphere of the brain, because that's really how you can calm down the central nervous system when you have that kind of coherence there.
Yes.
Well, Dr. Joseph Gallenberger, thank you so much for spending this wonderful time with us and sharing about your work.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me on, and it went very quickly. I enjoyed the hour. I wish everybody a great holiday season.
As do I. Have a wonderful holiday season. I'll be back again next Sunday. And just to remind you, it's synchcreation.com, and you can connect with Dr. Gallenberger there.